eyes in the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through.
Hey guys, what's up? Trey here, owner of Transform Fitness and a certified personal trainer. Checking in with a video today. Last time I talked about 75 Hard Pros as I did complete that challenge. If you've completed it as well, awesome. Congrats on that. It's a pretty involved program. It takes a lot to get through. So kudos to you if you completed it. If you're looking to complete it or you're considering it, I think in addition to the pros that I had mentioned in a previous video, if you haven't seen that, check that out here. I also think that I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't discuss the cons, and I will say I do believe the cons are a bit heavier than the pros. I'll get into more of that. Let me just kind of go in order of the things that I think are important to consider for 75 Hard and if you're going to do it. The first thing I want to say and mention is sustainability. I think a lot of people have trouble sticking to just the basics, and that's maybe getting in 3 workouts a week, and to jump into a program that requires you to do 2 45-minute workouts every single day for 75 days in a row, I think is a setup for disaster and failure for a lot of people. I don't know what the percentage of people is who actually completes the program, especially if we're considering the first attempt of the program. And one issue I have with that is just because you don't do something for a day, let's say you did the program for 49 days and on the 50th day you end up in the hospital because you're sick, or maybe you have an emergency and you have to fly out of town. The idea that you have to completely start your journey over is a bit bizarre to me, because you just did 49 days of really hard work, and that one day that you really needed to take off doesn't make you a failure. And I believe that program is kind of setting you up to believe that if you don't complete it, you're screwed. You have to start all over from day one. And if you've been into fitness and health, nutrition, whatnot for a period of time, you know that that one day doesn't define you. You could very easily have 49 awesome days and then something come up on that 50th day, and then continue for another 25 days and make just as much progress and have just as much discipline as the person who maybe fought their way through a couple yoga sessions on their hospital room floor. I just think that it's kind of a setup for a disaster that way. So while I appreciate the dedication it takes to do the program, I think that you really have to use your mind and your brain and know what is appropriate. So that's kind of my initial thought on the sustainability part, and just being realistic with what's achievable and what you should actually push yourself through. There are certain days that I think we shouldn't push ourselves through things. We could need a mental health day. I've had a couple of those recently, and I think that's important to recognize. I don't think that you should push yourself through the things that you shouldn't push yourself through, or you get injured. Maybe you need to take a day off. Maybe you have a migraine one day. I mean, there are all these things that can come up, and maybe you have those 75 days and things are running smoothly, and that's fine. But aside from things like ending up in the hospital, or maybe having a death in the family, or having an emergency trip, there are a number of other things that I dislike about the program. And one thing that I really want to cover on, especially, is the fact that let me put this out there. I follow a couple of the Facebook groups for 75 Hard, and one thing that I see pop up a lot is it's my birthday, like I really want to have cake, but I can't because I'm on day 27 of 75 Hard. And I'm like, just eat the cake. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, granted, like, okay, you want to do this program, and if you're dedicated to, trust me, I did it, I know, I understand, but there's room for birthday cake, and that doesn't mean that you have any less discipline. That actually means you probably have more discipline, because you're able to enjoy that cake on your birthday, which only comes around one day a year, and get right back on track the next day. Fitness and nutrition is not like something that you have to be like dedicated to 100% of the time. There's room for flexibility there, and I think that's what makes that sustainable for most people. And like the percentage of people who are successful with things such as weight loss is so small. We're talking 5%, and it's because they're just taking the steps, but they're not really doing a bunch of the other work. So yeah, that was a very long way of me saying sustainability. The second item I want to cover is the reading. I hated the fact that the reading had to be a physical book, and I'll tell you why, because I don't really understand the reason for it. So comment if you know the the reason that it has to be a physical book versus an audiobook or something like that, I did read the physical book per the program. But one thing that I realized is I don't need to read a physical book to get that information and to really help with my self-development and the things that I want to learn. So one thing that I found since completing the program that I've done is I've actually read more audiobooks, and I think it's a perfectly good option, especially if we're busy and we really want to still allow ourselves to take the time to invest in ourselves that way. But maybe we don't have the time to sit down and read a physical book, but maybe we're in our car and we can hit the play button and get information that way. I think information, regardless of how you get it, as long as you're able to be in a place to receive that and to apply it, I don't care if you're reading it out of a book or listening to it on an audiobook. So, one thing that I've done since then, as I mentioned, is reading more audiobooks, but not just books, things like audiobooks to learn Spanish. So I guess that's a little different than, 10 minutes of reading a book, but I'm still learning something that's really valuable to me that I'm going to be able to use when I travel more. So, or just even locally, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. A lot of people are Spanish speaking here. So it's something that I can do that doesn't have to be flipping through a physical book and reading pages that way. So, and then on top of that, it's just easier to download a book quickly if you see something that looks like you might be interested in, and you just have it available to you in your library. So that's the other thing. Water all around. Water's a good thing. I have no complaints about the gallon of water. I think that's ideal, especially with where I live. It gets super hot here in the summers, and I think a lot of people go through more water, or hopefully they do, living in the desert. So water's good, no complaints there. Okay, number 3 on the list of cons is daily photos. Doesn't make sense to me. Why do you want to take a photo of yourself every day? I don't know. Does that help people with accountability, or does it make them stress out and overanalyze everything about the way they look? I don't get it. Maybe once a week photos would be plenty. It still has that sense of accountability, but it's not something you have to do every single day. I don't think that really made a big impact as far as my experience with the program. It just seemed like something else that I had to add to my day where I could have been focused on something else. So that's a con for me. Okay, number 4 on the con list is diet. Follow a diet. Follow the diet every day. Yeah, as far as sustainability, we already talked about that. I think that kind of falls into the same thing there as far as not really being practical or sustainable. I think you can certainly cut out sugar, or maybe something that you struggle with on a regular basis. Maybe something that you don't need in your diet. It's one thing to cut that out, but I think as far as finding a specific diet that you can't change regardless, I think it defeats the purpose from a trainer coach perspective, at least. Let me give you an example. I would say about 7 to 8 weeks in, I hit a bit of a plateau, and because I'm a coach and I know with my own body what I need to do as far as making changes to my diet when I hit a plateau, I wasn't able to do that. And so I felt like I was kind of stuck on this specific diet, knowing that I was holding myself up from my progress if I had just made a couple adjustments, but I wanted to stick to the diet. So I think that you can kind of get caught up in being too strict with something to the point that you're not flexible when you know you need to be. So that's number 4. Okay, we're keeping to 5 here because that's what I did on the pros, and we're just gonna keep them even though I think my cons list is a bit longer. But number 5 is balance, life balance. I feel like many days I was struggling to get my last workout in, and I was up till 10, 11 o'clock at night, which really took away from just some of the basic things that I felt like I needed to do. I feel like my wife probably picked up my slack in a lot of areas, and I did feel guilty about that. So I think that it really threw me off. I think my business is a place that I'm really trying to grow in, and I think that it took away from that. And yeah, I know it's like 75 days, so it's not like a huge amount of time, but that's a lot of time. That's a lot that it took out of my business, out of my relationship. My wife was working till 8 o'clock. I was getting done with my work day, and after the first workout, clients, whatnot, maybe around that time too, having dinner, and then getting my last workout in, like it would pretty much be like morning till I went to bed, and I barely saw my wife. Like, didn't probably give my fur kids enough attention. It really takes a lot out of you. And I think the thing about it is, like, you can get the same results and discipline using a program that doesn't require you to commit so much of your time to it. I think that it can be a little excessive there as far as the time commitment, and yeah, that's number 5. I hope you enjoyed the top 5 cons. If you want me to make a video on anything else 75 hard related, please let me know. I'm happy to do it. Check out the pros here, and I will go ahead and post my before and after photos, since that seems to be something that people want to see here. And I will talk to you later. All right, have a good one. Bye.
Shining through